Hello, everyone. We welcome you to SexEd Unfiltered, a podcast series launched in partnership with Putali, Nepal and Stand We Speak in collaboration with Yunus and Youth. In our candid, interactive, and game based podcast, we will be discussing and reflecting upon the topics of love, relationship, sex, and identity that are often soaked in shame and stigma all around the world.
Hello, everyone. I am Priyola Agrawal, the founder of Stanvi Speak, a sex tech organization based in India.
And I'm Aishwarya Rani Singh, Managing Director at Putali, Nepal, a social enterprise based in Nepal. And we welcome you to the fifth episode of Sex Ed Unfiltered, Expressing Myself My Way. I, me, and myself is a very personal indication that often tries to reflect an individual's personal choice when they express themselves. 21st century world is emboldened with movements demanding personal freedom and protection of human and individual rights, therefore fortifying individuals' right to feel, be, and express the way they want to. Are rights, freedom, and choices even existential, or are they matters only relevant for policy discussion and arguments? If they do exist, who is responsible for protecting these rights? Is it the government, the society, the family, or individual themselves? Is there an unspoken and unseen societal decorum that individuals still have to abide by when it comes to expressing themselves and accepting a particular gender role just in order to be accepted by the society? How long will it take for society to accept the individuals for who they really are and allow them to live the life they want to without succumbing to shame, embarrassment, and vulnerability? Ultimately, who are we to even judge how me and myself should express themselves as?
Amidst all innumerable questions surrounding us, today we are super thrilled to invite our guests, Bruni and Tehrim, for today's episode, hoping to get a closer look into the experiences and cultures surrounding sexuality and gender roles. So, before we begin, we would like our guests to introduce themselves. And since today's episode is on sexuality and gender, along with your introduction, we would also appreciate if you could tell us if identity was an object, what would be for you?
Hi guys, it's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm Bruni Conte. I'm a white non-binary person from Brazil, from the southern part of the country. I'm also the co-founder of Arc of Fine Arts, a social enterprise that supports vulnerable migrant women through photography in their cultural and economic inclusion when they arrive in Brazil. I also work as a consultant for an agency here in Brazil named Tribu. We work mainly in cultural projects, in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and social impact initiatives. I'm passionate about a vision where peoples around the world reclaim the power they've lost during the past ages, and then they gather together to co-create a better future for these and the next generations. And if identity was an object, I thought of many things, and perhaps it could be a mirror, it could be a music album, a piece of garment. But then I thought of a photo book because, firstly, I love pictures. I love to see old images. And secondly, I believe your identity tells a lot about you, your story, and how you see this world. For me, identity is something as an ever-evolving process. And as we learn more about ourselves, we burn off layer by layer things that are not part of us any longer. And by that, I mean, I love to call this writer. His name is Alexander Leon. He says that queer people don't grow up as ourselves. We grow up as playing a version of ourselves that sacrifices authenticity to minimize humiliation and prejudice. And the massive task of our adult lives, in his belief, is that to unpick which parts of us, of ourselves, are truly us, and which part of ourselves we've created to protect us. So I think it's quite powerful and liberatory to see identity in his perspective.
Thank you so much, Bruni, for that introduction. Tehrim, what about you?
I'm Tahrim Shah. I'm from the capital. I'm currently living in the capital, Dhaka, from Bangladesh. My hometown is actually in Chittagong, and I am the co-founder of Bhorsha, which is a social business that is currently under incubation with Y&Y. Other than that, I'm currently doing my daytime job, which is working as an assistant vice president under digital business department in the largest non-life insurance company in Bangladesh. And the reason why I am mentioning both of the work that I am doing, despite being an architect, and I get this question quite a lot that why am I doing whatever I'm doing? Because I should only be concerned about the building boundaries or designing buildings per se, is because I'm very passionate about urban disaster preparedness. I'm very passionate about cities and livelihoods and human centric design. And at the same time, startup or the social business that me and my co-founder were working in, it's working with the largest informal settlement in Bangladesh. These are the blue collar people of our country, which makes up at least 80%, and they are the people of our country regarding whom we both are quite passionate about, as in how we can contribute our bits and pieces here and there. And like, if I would like to say a bit more about myself regarding there's like other than the titles or the organizations that I'm involved in, or from an educational perspective, it would be me as an individual who has been living alone, like I said, in the capital for the past 7 years. And I feel like that has a lot to do how I have evolved as an individual, both in my personal and professional life, and it's quite interrelated. And like Bruni said, and I would kind of echo that, that is, it is an ever evolving process. And through that, I would really say how identity would probably be, like, the object that identity would probably be is actually an ice for me, because I feel like ice is such an object which in different situation, in different condition, changes its shape, morphologically, and at the same time takes in, and it's quite flexible, agile. It is who you would want to be, and it can change, and it can change for the better. And you sometimes go through a lot of situation to actually probably figure out, and then probably you then realize that that is not who you are, and then you take few steps back and then probably go back to your old form. And there is always a back and forth process. It's quite flexible. So for me, I would kind of associate identity with that.
That's such a strong analogy, and it's really amazing the kind of work you both are doing. We are so happy to have you here, and there are so many topics that we want to discuss with you today, and we really can't wait to get started. I'm so excited. So, shall we begin?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So, we would be playing 3 to 4 different games today, and we will explain the rules of each one of them as we move along. If you have any questions at any point of time, please let us know. So the first game is called Have You Ever? And in this game, we will ask you a question and you simply have to respond with yes or no. Along with that, it would be great if, to hear your experiences and stories related to it. So feel free to share your incidents with our audience. So for this round, Bruni, you may go first, followed by Tehreem. All right. So the first question is, have you ever found it difficult to express yourself based on your gender or sexuality?
Oh, wow, this is a process for me. I grew up, yeah. I would say it's a struggle actually. I grew up in this very Catholic community here in my city, and it was very straightforward what it was to be, what was it to be a woman, or was it to be a man. And I remember when I was like a teenager, or during early ages, my dad coming to my room, knocking the door and saying stuff like, "Hey, stop singing, you sing like a girl, when your voice is gonna get thicker," and things like that. So for me, the image, the energy of a man, it always seems a bit like, I have this very strong connection with violence. So for me, being more feminine, I would say it's really hard for me to express myself in a room, full of men, for example, or when I have to report for a boss that is a man. And I think that I am much more creative in, rooms where there is this more safe and psychological safety to tell about the things that I'm thinking of, the ideas that I've been working on. And I believe that this has a lot to do with the way my parents created me and raised me. So yeah, I would say I'm still working on to get like more genuine, maybe. And yeah, I would say just that I think it's a challenge for people that are still having to, educate people about what they are and what are their identities. Thank you for the question.
So me going next. I didn't mention something at the beginning, that is, I go with the pronoun she and hers. But my journey has been quite, now that I think about it, it has been quite funny because, coming from like the region that we are in South Asia, and coming from Bangladesh, the society tends to be quite conservative. I would say my family wasn't, on the other hand, but then again, it influences in a huge way, as in how you grow up. I probably have figured out with my journey that I know where my interest, my sexuality, or, my overall as a person, how I am, what I like and what I don't. Probably I figured it out through myself by making mistakes or not, or simply by learning or unlearning. But what I did have to go through when I was like, since my childhood, that created a kind of discomfort for me, and kind of still does, that since I was a kid, I was always told to not keep my hair short. It's not going to make me look feminine. So hair always had this important role, even though I loved myself probably in like a really short like hair, like with the face structure that I have, or probably my weight or whatnot. I really had to listen to the people around me to do that. Secondly, my clothing choice was very highly influenced by people around me or the society. And I used to be like, why do I have to wear kameez, the patta, to cover my my breasts per se, to be more feminine? Because inside I do feel that I do feminine nonetheless, even if I'm wearing a t-shirt or a pant. So I still remember, even today also, I was going through my childhood picture, because there's this trend of childhood picture going on in Instagram, where I was seeing that till my grade 6 or 7, I had like a boy cut hair. I used to wear trousers, I used to wear t-shirt. And then suddenly when I was in grade 7, I probably just hit puberty, or that phase that I'm going through. I had to change to wear like a complete different attire with like long hair. And after all these years, very recently, I have quite come to making peace with the way I look and the way I feel. Probably all these days, I did feel feminine, but I had to show it through my looks, or the way I used to sit, or dress up myself, or, just carry myself in a certain way to feel more feminine, with the apostrophe. But nowadays, I probably sit with my legs, wide on the two different sides and still feel feminine. And same goes with my hair. And I'm much more about, I think much more about breaking stereotypes right now, and just knowing how I feel within inside and carrying that forward. So yeah.
That is amazing. I was just thinking, when we are born, we we don't really care about what the norms are about gender or sexuality and how we are supposed to behave, and we are so open towards experimenting. But when exactly do we start internalizing these norms? And when we try to build our own identity, it starts clashing with how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to behave, how you're supposed to act. So when exactly does that happen?
Bruni, if you would want to go, because I think that's a very, very interesting question, because I did ask myself that a few times. But Bruni, please go ahead first.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to contribute. I feel that I really started to ask myself what it is to be a man during the time I was living abroad, because I was I did a master's in social entrepreneurship in the UK through the Chevening scholarship, and there I met a lot of like different people from different identities, from different perspectives of the world. I met this trans woman, and she became my very best friend. We are like sisters in this world, and I could like understand trans feminism theory. I could understand politics of love, and even like power dynamics that now for me are much more clearer than it was before when I was like living in my country. And then I just thought it was very, very clear for me this moment when I was like in this room, and I couldn't, I didn't feel like a man. And just because I had the knowledge, it was more, I could name it. I could say what was happening inside of me, like this feeling of not belonging to an identity, but not knowing how to name it. And my mom, she's a housekeeper, and I remember when I was a kid, she would bring me to those houses where she would clean, and there was this big one with a big room covered all over with dolls, like Barbies from this family, this girl, and she would let me there playing with the dolls all day long, and she would say nothing. Like I was just doing my thing, like being creative with the time I had and with the tools that I had. And I just loved to play with the dolls and like creating narratives and making stories and everything. And I remember also I have 5 sisters, and we would play together, and I would pretend to be this woman, Claudia. And Claudia was like a businesswoman. She was like super successful. And I just loved this Claudia, but I had to ask my sisters not to tell anyone, because it would be like would be like challenging from my parents. And it's not that I want to be a woman, or it's more like I don't feel like a man. That is the thing. And I don't want to hold the power that men have in this in this society. I want to give up of this power, because I don't think it's like something we should culturally enforce in our society. I think that men have been taking this stage from women since the beginnings of the ages, and I do think that the future should be more balanced, and like for me, in a long story short, I think that we are much more than just in my perspective, in my experience. I feel that I'm something that is still I'm looking for the name of it, and telling myself that I'm non-binary, it's more straightforward. It's more like something people are know about, but still I'm trying to understand what I am. But more than ever, I know exactly what I'm not. So it's interesting to understand that I had to go through different experiences from friends abroad, and also had to leave my culture behind to understand who I am. Yeah.
I think I resonate with almost everything, like not almost, like everything with what Bruni said and where he's coming from, because I think being knowledgeable about these specific terms or the field itself, gender, all these is quite important, and it's not instigated in us since our like childhood. We are told everything. So once we open ourselves into the field of knowledge and actually get educated and know it step by step, that okay, what is this, what is that, we see people, we have open conversations, we have conversations that matter, only then I think we will be able to break stereotypes and know exactly what we don't want. And then we possibly explore with what we want in different ways and whatnot. Like later on in this, I would probably share some of the things that I, as a woman, I know that I don't want. And then probably as a woman, the three things that I do want, but I struggle to vocal because I'm apparently a woman. So yeah, I think for me, the exact moment when that transition actually happened and I knew about it is probably when I started educating myself and started to unlearn about all the things that was given as a Bible or like, you know, as a thumb rule since childhood. So when I started getting involved with organizations that work with sex ed programs, with, has seminars or webinars with people who are from different parts of the gender spectrum, and you hear their experiences, you respect it, you're flexible, your mind is open. They're like, your mind being open, it does not only mean that you're just listening to it or being sympathetic towards it or even empathic towards it. There's a level of compassion when you're listening to these people, and you would want to know how you can play a role in that demography and make them feel safe as well. So you actually educate yourself to help others and yourself in that process, so that all of us can live with the comfort zone or the safe space that they're wanting. So yeah, for me, I think that's when I just knew about things. So yeah, that's basically it.
That's really amazing. And I know that it's very difficult to navigate through this and to find yourself. And it's really commendable how both of you are going about it. Moving on to the next question. Have you ever felt that your right to live the life you choose to have has been taken away because society demands you to act or behave in a certain way?
Yeah, for sure. In many ways it happened in the past. I remember when I went to this super nice restaurant with my ex-boyfriend, and because as we were like holding hands, the waitress, she asked us to leave. And he was like very combative, and I was more like, let's live here. They don't want us here. He wanted to talk to the manager of the place. It was like no, it's more than that. I think it was like 5 years ago. My God, I'm getting older. And he had this big discussion with the manager of this place. And this is something that was very common in the past. I remember when we went to different like public spaces, we needed to perform different ways to as a straight couple wouldn't. And right now, I think it's more sophisticated, let's say. Like talking about myself, like I had to change my name to conform to my identity. And it's a huge process. Like, guys, it's so exhaustive to prove that you are a non-binary person and that your name is not the name that you were been using as a different person, as a male. So I think that it's a never-ending battle that I'm keen to to fight, because I know that sometimes I'll be the first person in the room, and it's very like normal to be this person, like the first non-binary person in the office, the first non-binary person like presenting a paper, and it can be very exhaustive. But I know that I'm opening the space for new people to come and to be more authentic with themselves. So although it's a bit exhaustive, it is still like very rewarding, as we know that more people are coming in this new generation, the Z generation, and they even know like better references that I didn't have in the past, like maybe talking about like singers, like gay men that are more open, like Tracy Vaughn. Those guys, they are an inspiration for teens in this generation. So I'm hopeful about the future, thinking in this perspective. But yeah, it's still an issue that I know that will be like that will be with me for a long time. And I think that is the thing for me. It's more like a process.
I think that's quite insightful, Bruni, because you're not the first person that I have heard who had similar experiences. So I have been part of an organization called Kotha, which means conversations in Bengali, and we have the first comprehensive sex ed program in Bangladesh called Kotha School, where we go teach as a curriculum to high school kids about how sex ed includes everything from consent to bystander intervention to cyberbullying itself. So there are different courses, and we have been taking classes from grade 6 to 8. But due to Corona, a lot of things have changed or evolved in the past 1 year. And I have become an alumni member as well. But when I was part of it, we had Sisters in Sync, where we had safe spaces, events to share our experiences in different fields. As a woman, as a trans woman, as a non-binary person, everyone had probably didn't want to associate themselves with some sort of identity, but they just knew where they were coming from and they could share their experiences and feel safe about it. We created such circles. So I remember speaking there about my experience as a woman, where probably I have been facing restrictions in different level, and it's just getting harder every day. But I'm just trying to find a way through it. For instance, preferably at the beginning, it was a struggle as a daughter in such family. Then probably it was as a female student, a female young student, and then now it's about a young female entrepreneur, or a young female professional facing different issues in the workplace. And definitely talking from both personal and professional experiences, personally, it's always very difficult because the people around you, majority of them, and in our society, have set few bars and standards of how females should be reacting or presenting themselves in different situations. Like, you shouldn't speak much, you should be a bit quiet, you shouldn't have loud voice, you should wear specific type of clothing, etc., etc. And at the same time, if you're not living up to that, you will be having to hear things behind your back, which is not decent. And I'm not going to break those down right now because that's like a long list. And my general personal struggle have always been that to get a sit on the table where probably the men would be looking at me and taking me seriously and would not be looking for a male figure to speak to. This has happened quite a few times as well. So what do we do at times like that? I personally have been quite I have been quite frustrated. I have been trying to figure out that why is this this barrier coming every single time? Is it because I'm a woman? Is it because I'm a woman? That's something I keep on questioning myself. And it's quite, you have to gather a lot of courage and a lot of strength, and at the same time persevere through all this to go through. And other than this, obviously, talking from personal experiences, choices are something that probably women would not be able to take on their own. I am still quite young. I can't decide what would be good for me. My elderly family members would probably make a better decision about my personal life, and they come in with all those suggestions. And I don't know, even in this century, why is it still as such, where these very people have educated us, have sent us to school, we are exposed to so much out there, then why is it still so difficult, let alone respecting the other gender spectrum overall or as a whole? So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it.
I can so resonate with both of your stories because it's the same. It's more or less the same in India. Aishwarya, what do you think? How is it in Nepal, the situation?
I mean, it's the same, as I'm sitting here and listening to things, I can resonate to so many things, and just makes me come back to the same point over and over again, that there's so many experiences which are so similar. And I'm just like trying to figure out the root cause of it. Like, how did it even actually start for individuals across the world to have similar experiences? It's intense.
Yeah, I would just like to add a little with this, since you both have been like talking about how collective the issues are or problems are. It was quite surprising for me when I went to Norway, thinking that it's not probably Bangladesh, India, or Nepal. It's probably a place where it's quite progressive for female architects per se. But the issue was same. I remember my boss telling me, he was a male boss, he was telling me how it was difficult for his few female colleagues to sustain in few architecture jobs, in a country like Norway, which is like probably one of the top 10 in the world, right, with GDP, economic growth, whatever, etc., etc. So where is the issue exactly? And I still remember how I was going through this course under Bard College, which is in US, how much more difficult it is for Black women of color in US to simply get a proper health service back in during COVID times. I remember my faculty, Miss Kami, talking about such challenges, and how it's like we are 100 years behind in so many ways, or 50 years behind in so many ways. And it's just there in all part of the world, like despite the geographical location, religion, and whatnot. So they're quite concerning, to be honest.
Thank you so much for sharing your views on these, Tarim. So moving on to the next round, I'll hand it over to Aishwarya.
Thank you so much, guys, for such an intense round. I'm just like, going around different thoughts and situations. And yeah, I'm just excited to get started with another round. So the next round is called Mythbuster. And here we will give you a sentence that we most commonly hear, and you have to share your opinion with regards to it, towards it, whether you believe it's true or not. So for this round, Tehrim, you can go first, followed by Bruni. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the first statement is, it is possible to change a person's sexual orientation and gender identity.
Of course. like no doubt about it. I think anything can happen next year or 5 years later. I might just feel different, and that's fine. That's okay.
Bruni, what about you?
Yeah, for sure. I think that we should have the freedom to, to try new things and experience new things and be okay with that. I think we shouldn't be ashamed of like being open to life in general. So yeah, I totally agree.
Okay, great. So my second statement is, it's unnatural to belong to a LGBTQ. Tehrim, you can go first.
Seriously, honestly, I'm laughing right now, but it's making me so angry because here in Bangladesh, we have had people killed because they were part of the LGBTQ community. I remember there was this incident. I don't exactly remember the name right now because I forget, but it was quite heartbreaking. And the guy, he was a journalist, quite influential, and it created a stir back then. And I don't know, like, leaves me speechless, to be honest. But yeah.
Awesome. Bruni, what about you?
Oh gosh, it's like unbelievable that people still think of it. And what is it to be normal then? That is my question back to them when I hear stuff like that. I was giving this lecture at a work actually for a client, and we were talking about what is it to be a woman, and then I explained each letter of the pride flag, the LGBT plus. And as I was talking about what is it to be, or what does cisgender means, they said stuff like, oh, but we are all equal. We don't need to discriminate with different language. And I was so shocked. I couldn't think of an example, or couldn't bring something smart and not aggressive in a way that to bring like a nice argument. And then luckily I had this colleague backing me up, and she said, yeah, when we don't talk about something, we don't solve the problem. So there is this huge number, like percentual rate of trans women being killed in Brazil just for being trans. And she said stuff like, yeah, so if we don't talk about this issue, the issue doesn't come up. So we can't solve it. So this is why we talk about different, identities. And I loved the way she, sustained the argument, but still people started leaving the room because it was like online. It was a shame. But yeah, I think that we need to have like a very good argument to talk about those questions as well.
Yeah. I mean, to kill somebody for who they are is, I think, and I believe to be the most horrific crime. And I am still going to hang on to the question you raised, Bruni. What is normal then? I think everybody needs to find an answer to that. Moving on, my third statement would be for you, Teherim, first. It is okay for people to treat you according to their perception and understanding of a particular gender.
I would not agree with that because, see, the thing is, this kind of takes us back to the initial conversation we were having, because people need to educate themselves for what is there out there. You might have a definite opinion. Opinion is a different thing. Knowledge is another. And you need to communicate with people in the most graceful way possible. Just like how we speak to people not knowing what experience they have probably gone through and what kind of day they're having today. Similarly, when we're talking about their gender, we should be very respectful towards the gender norms that exist generally and talk from that perspective. You might or might not like a lot of things, but when you're speaking to someone, you should educate yourself and then talk. I have come across a lot of people in Bangladesh, my age, above my age, probably not below my age, I'm not sure, I don't remember, but who, because of what is said in religion about sexuality or stuff, they always bring that up when having a conversation. But you have to understand everyone is not expected to go through that. And not even like, you don't even have to go so far with the gender identification or just identification as a whole. Even when they're talking to women, they don't people don't hesitate to pass on comments or judgments or even a bit of gaslighting, and it's as simple as saying that, oh, you are probably staying back till 10 p.m. because you don't have a partner. If you had a boyfriend, probably you would have left earlier. Or, oh, you look like a cotton candy today because, you're probably wearing a pink cloth. So it's as simple as that, to be honest. So educate yourself first, and don't just nobody asks for your opinion. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I completely second to what you said. The way people are so much stuck in this mental biasness as to what society has constructed is definitely something that needs to be dealt with. And I hope there's light at the end of the tunnel. But moving on to you, Bruni, what is your take on it?
Wow, thanks, Taring. I absolutely believe in what you said. And I was thinking on my own experience when I was a migrant doing my studies abroad, and also the work we do at ARCA, because, we support women that come from different countries in Latin America with only the clothes they wear to find better lives in Brazil. And the level of difficulties, the level of barriers they have here just for being Black or just for speaking another language is totally because, or mostly, I think, because the way people see them. And when, there is this huge prejudice telling in society, labeling people what they are before getting to know their stories. And for me, thinking of my own narrative when I was doing my studies, I remember that because I'm white and I'm tall, I'm skinny, I look like European. And I remember that for me, it was not hard to navigate in different spaces that my Black peers, Black colleagues couldn't, or like felt difficult. But as I open up my mouth to talk, like to communicate, I would immediately being understood as like Latino. So people would put me or place me in a box, not allowing me to be or to fulfill another boxes, like an academic or like a researcher. So I totally believe that there is this deep structure and beliefs in society, mostly due to like colonialism and other structures, patriarchy, and even the economic system that is still places a key role in people's mindset, not allowing to be empathetic and supportive with the difference. So I think starting, I really believe that it takes a lot in in the way our culture is structured.
I completely agree with you, Bruni. I think the simple solution would just to remind ourselves, don't treat others the way you want to be treated. But I think somewhere everybody is lost. But yeah, moving on, I will pass it on to Priyal now.
Okay, so the next game is called Would You Rather, and here we will ask you questions with two options, and you have to pick one and tell us why you chose it. So for this round, Bruni, you will go first, followed by Tehreem. So the first statement is, would you rather remain the way you are or change your biological sex?
Wow, great question. I would be who I am. And I'm okay with that. I have no problems at the moment. Yeah. What about you, Taring?
I would remain the same. But I was just thinking, have I ever thought about changing my biological sex? I never did, actually. So would it be okay for me to say that, okay, I'm okay with not changing or stuff, because I never have given it a thought. But yeah, till today, at this very moment, I'm comfortable just the way I am. Don't know what the future holds, though.
I'm gonna be absolutely honest here. Every month I get my period, I think about it, okay? But that's the only point I think about it.
No, I enjoy period just sometimes.
Oh,
Yeah, actually
this
too,
is
because
new.
I actually don't have much pain and not like much blood flow either, and I get it quite timely. The reason why I enjoy it is because I can like apply different types of nail polishes, and the prayer thing is not there, which is very stupid, but yeah.
Very interesting. Quite interesting. So moving on, the second statement is, would you rather hide your sexuality or express it fully?
Oh, good question. At this level, this moment in life, I would be very okay just to express myself, not giving a fuck what others will think of.
Uh-huh.
That was strong.
I cheer you, Bruni. Like, go
Yeah.
ahead. I mean, yeah. I think we all should not give
Yeah,
what
I
Bruni
want,
doesn't want to
like,
give.
I just want to freely express myself. I know I'm a woman, and I know I want to be involved in the different sexual activities, and I should be able to vocalize that. Why should I be ashamed of it? Why should I stay quiet or be all like, I'm a delicate person. You don't have to touch me right now. And why do I have to do all this drama, man? I just can't say I want this, I don't want this. So that's how fully I want to go.
Wow, we have some bold people here. So the last statement I have for this round is, would you rather never be able to express yourself through your clothes or never be able to date someone that you love?
Wow, difficult one. Oh, I love dating. It's super important, like, in this, contemporary world to meet new people. And also it's super important for me to just show up as I am with the clothes that I like, but I would be like much more, depressed if I would have to, avoid to date people that I love. Yeah, for sure. What about you, Taring?
So I think this is quite interesting for me because I recently have discovered that I have certain needs, certain wants, and certain way that I would like to express myself within closed doors and behind closed doors or whatever. But the thing is, I'm trying to not be in denial with myself. So I realize probably when being that way, it might push away people who could be my comfort zone. It might become a bit overwhelming for people. I don't know. But I kind of have to accept that and make few bold moves, as in, do I really want to hold on to someone that I'm comfortable with, or do I want to be more expressive about myself and not live in denial, or wake up every morning and be like, okay, I'm not happy with the way I am and I'm really trying hard to adjust for the other person and keep that person in my life. So I realized that I would rather be me and then see where my journey takes me than maybe let go of few I don't know. I wouldn't say let go of it, but have few experiences. Because obviously the people who really love you, because relationship comes in different dynamics, right? You have people who are your partners, or people who are well-wishers, your family, or your family then have segregations as well, right? Parents, sisters, and whatnot. So people who really love you will probably at the end of the day accept you for exactly who you are. That's your identity. Like, today we are speaking from the perspective of gender probably a lot more, but sometimes you can just be a chaotic person as well. You probably mess up every 2 or 3 days, and that's just fine. You step up again and you try to push yourself through the day. It's always a little push with the needle and for the change. So I think, yeah, I'm it's about all about being myself at the end of the day, and rest of the things follows.
I just want to say that I got the question completely wrong. I don't think it's an option even, like, to only have one of the two. For me, it's absolutely what Starring said. I only feel that the other person will fully love me if they know the person that I am, and the way that I show to the world is a lot about me as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like Tahrim said, and I would like to echo it again, that people who will love you will accept you for who you are, regardless of what. And I just want to tell both of you that we love you and just remain the way you are. Now, the last game for today is rapid fire. Here, I will give you a sentence and you have to complete it. And it has to be rapid and fiery. So, yeah, shall I get started?
Sure.
In this round, Tahrim, you can go first, followed by Bruni.
All
So
right.
my first sentence is, when it comes to my gender, life would have been easier if
I could move freely in the streets. I really don't know whether that made any sense or not, because I honestly am sometimes scared to like walk in the streets after a certain time.
So
or some
are
definite-
we. So are
Same,
we,
same.
Tarim. So are we.
Shit, that just came too quick in my head. Anyway.
I mean, that's what we want the round to look like. So it's absolutely fine. You've got it. Bruni, what about you?
Super. For me, like, having good references at the beginning when I was, like, building up my personality, that would help a lot.
Okay. My second sentence, Tahrim, you go first. It has to be quick and followed by Bruni. I feel proud of myself when
I handle situation gracefully.
Bruni.
Oh, good question. I feel that I can love and be loved.
Now, Tahrim, you next. The fun thing about my sexuality is
I can say whatever I want to do.
awesome. Bruni.
I would say, like, be 100% who I am.
Awesome. So, Tahrim, it annoys me when
Men tell me what needs to be done.
Bruni.
People asking me what does non-binary means, and then trying to tell me what it means. Like, it's so exhaustive.
Okay. A fifth sentence for you, Tahrim. When it comes to my sexuality, I would like to have the freedom to
wear whatever I want.
Bruni.
Oh, to be more spontaneous, for sure.
And the final sentence for you, Tahrim. When it comes to dating, the most challenging thing for me is
To feel the synergy, like just express about myself and not scare away the person.
Bruni.
Yeah, I think that having that feeling of being welcomed, even in your differences and the most like inner places you have.
Right.
Great. So we are almost towards the end of this podcast, and I feel very sad to say that, but we have limited time. And before we wrap up, my question to both of you, and this is going to be the last question. Bruni, you can go first, followed by Tehrim. If you had one advice for your younger self, what would it be?
Wow. I would say, please chill out. Don't care that much about your dad has to say about you, about the things that you like, the things that you love. And when he enrolls you in the soccer school, just play with it and don't think too much of what others will think of you. Just be yourself and love yourself the most you can. Yeah.
Awesome. Tehrim?
Always put yourself first. It's never a selfish move. It's never like you're not doing a lot for others. You can only help others if you can help yourself. I would really tell my younger self that just go easy on on you. It's fine. You don't always have to be strong. You don't always have to prove strength. Just have the courage to speak out the truth whenever it's needed and for yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's you who has to take yourself to the end of the journey, right? So yeah, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to speak up, and don't be afraid to be genuine. You you will at least wake up every day knowing that you love yourself, and then distribute the love to others.
I mean, of course, you cannot love others until unless you love yourself first.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for those beautiful advices. And with this, we have come to an end of this fun-filled podcast. Thank you so much, Bruni and Theron, for your time and having this honest and open discussion with us. We loved your answers and the insights that you gave us about sexuality and gender with regards to your society and culture. I hope you both enjoyed as much as we did.
It was fun. Thank you so
It
much,
was
guys.
great, actually. Thank you. And thank you both, Priyal and Ash. And Bruni, it was great hearing from you as well.
It was so lovely. Thank you so much. Looking forward to connect in the future.
You have reached the end of today's episode of SexEd Unfiltered. You can subscribe, rate, and review our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. For more updates, follow Putali Nepal and Stanley Speak on Instagram and YouTube. Until next time, thank you for listening.